My name is Sarah. I'm 16 years old. The night my life burned down started with one sentence. My mom kicked me out at 16. You'll be back begging in a month. My dad slammed the door in my face. I walked away, never looked back. But 11 years later, my phone lit up. 99 missed calls. They were begging me to pick up. Back then, I was just a kid with paint on my fingers and stupid hope in my chest. I'd just been accepted into a prestigious art school, the kind of place people like me only ever see on brochures. I came home clutching the letter like a lifeline, thinking my parents would finally see me. Instead, my mom read the words "School of Fine Arts" and laughed, without any humor. You think smearing colors on a canvas is a future? Absolutely not. She shredded the envelope right in front of me,
Little white flakes raining to the floor while my stomach turned to ice. My dad stepped closer, jabbing a finger at the portfolio I'd spent years building. You either enroll in pre-med like we planned, or you're on your own. No house, no money, no family. Choose. My cheeks burned. My hands shook so hard I had to clench my fists. Then I heard myself say, "Then I'm on my own." His eyes went dead cold. "Good. Pack your junk. You'll be back begging in a month." He yanked the front door open so violently the frame rattled, then slammed it behind me as I stepped out with one old backpack and a sketchbook pressed to my chest. I walked down that dark street, feeling my childhood snap behind me like a cut wire. I swore I would rather starve than crawl back. I didn't know that someday the begging would come from them. That night, I crashed on a friend's couch, but my mind wasn't with the blankets or a borrowed pillow. It was inside a painting I hadn't even created yet. A girl reaching for a door. Two faceless figures towering behind her. Their hands stained with ashes of burned canvases. When I finally stepped onto campus a week later, sleep-deprived, terrified, technically homeless, I felt something strange. Not safety, but possibility. The studio smelled like acrylic and turpentine. For the first time in my life, no one told me art was a waste. I scraped together my savings, paid for a tiny shared room, picked up shifts at a dingy late-night diner. During the day, I painted until my fingers cramped. At night, I scrubbed tables and pretended my feet weren't killing me. The exhaustion was brutal, but it still felt better than suffocating in that house. The first real warmth I felt came from a fellow student, a boy with wild curls and paint permanently under his nails. He looked at my first assignment, a rough charcoal sketch of those faceless parents, whistled softly. "There's anger in this, real anger. Don't lose that." I didn't realize it then, but that comment would become the seed of something darker. Revenge art. That week, I woke from a nightmare drenched in sweat. My mom taking every canvas I'd ever painted, feeding them one by one into a fireplace, smiling while the colors curled and blackened. I jolted upright, grabbed my sketchbook, started drawing the scene exactly as I'd seen it. The next day, I turned that sketch into a painting. Every brushstroke felt like a scream I'd never been allowed to let out. That piece, half confession, half accusation, got attention. Professors lingered in front of it. Students whispered,
This is raw. One of them asked, "Who hurt you?" I just smiled thinly, kept painting. Money was still a constant problem. My parents had cut me off completely. No calls, no messages. Nothing but silent block. When tuition came due for the next term, I stood in the financial aid office shaking. My scholarship application had been mysteriously withdrawn from the online portal. I hadn't withdrawn anything. Later, a sympathetic clerk told me someone had called pretending to be me, saying I'd decided not to pursue art after all. There were only 2 people who would benefit from that. My jaw tightened so hard it hurt. If they thought sabotaging my future from a distance would send me crawling home, they didn't know me at all. I picked up more shifts, sold sketches on the street, painted until my eyes blurred. At 3 a.m., when the loneliness crept in, one question kept circling. Would you dare walk away from everything you've ever known, even if you knew the loneliness would chew on you every night? By the time the mid-year student exhibition rolled around, I turned my anger into a series. 3 large canvases. A child offering a glowing painting to 2 shadowy adults. The adults tearing it in half. The child walking away, clutching the torn pieces like armor. My mentor pushed me to submit them as a set. People need to see this story. It's ugly and honest. That's what good art is. The night of the showcase, the gallery buzzed. I stood by my series, palms damp, pretending I wasn't watching every reaction like my life depended on it. Some people stared in silence. Others leaned in, reading the small title card, Inheritance. A boy pointed at the shadow figures. "Who are they?" "My parents," I said simply. He laughed awkwardly, thinking I was joking. I didn't correct him. As the room filled, my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I ignored it. Then again. And again. That's when I felt it. The shift in the air. The kind of quiet that isn't silence, but tension pulling tight like a wire. I looked toward the entrance and almost stopped breathing. My mother was standing in the doorway, dressed like she was attending a corporate gala, eyes sweeping the room with that familiar mix of judgment and calculation. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating, but then her gaze locked onto my series. Her face hardened. She walked straight toward me. My dad appeared behind her. When they reached the paintings, my mom's voice came out sharp, controlled. "Take these down. Now." I crossed my arms. "No. This is slander. We could sue. It's art, and it's the truth.
If you want to sue me for telling the truth, go ahead."
My dad's jaw clenched. "You're embarrassing this family." "I am this family. You just don't want to admit what you did to it." The tension crackled between us. A few people nearby turned to watch. My mom lowered her voice. "We'll pay you. Whatever you need. Just take them down." For a split second, I almost considered it. Then I remembered the door slamming in my face, the shredded acceptance letter, the nights I went hungry. "No amount of money will make me hide what you did." They left, but the damage was done. Someone had overheard. Word spread. By the time the regional competition came around, I'd created something bigger. A massive canvas titled Truth and Consequences. Towering cracked faces of my parents, foreclosure signs and hospital corridors behind them. a child walking toward a bright blank canvas.
I'd hidden small details only people who knew our family would catch. My father's watch, my mother's necklace, the engraved plaque from his business, now splintered and half buried in the background. This wasn't just art, it was testimony. The morning of the opening, my inbox pinged with an email from my father, threatening legal action if I continued to defame this family. I forwarded it to my professor, who forwarded it to the competition organizers. Their reply? Artistic expression is protected. We stand by our artists. For the first time in my life, adults with power were standing on my side. When the doors opened to the public, the room flooded. Critics, local news, collectors, students. I watched from a corner as they approached my piece. Faces shifted. Curiosity, discomfort, fascination. Someone murmured, "That's brutal." Then I saw them. My parents entered together, dressed like they were going to a gala instead of a trial they didn't know they were on. My father's jaw was already set. My mother's eyes darted nervously until they landed on the painting. I watched the exact moment recognition hit. Their steps faltered. My father's face went from confusion to fury in seconds. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. They stood frozen, in front of a larger-than-life reflection of their worst selves. Whispers started, sharp and quick. A local journalist raised his eyebrows, glancing between the canvas and my parents. My father turned, searching the crowd, found me. Our eyes locked. He reached me, hissed low, "Take it down, now." I met his glare evenly. "No, this is slander. It's a painting. But if you want to talk about the real events behind it, I have a journal full of dates, details, and witnesses. We can take that to court if you'd like." His mouth opened, then closed. For once, he had no immediate comeback. My mother hovered behind him, eyes glazed with panic. "Sarah, please. Things are bad. The business is struggling. People stopped trusting your father. This will ruin us." The words hit me. All those years they told me I'd fail without them, that I was nothing on my own. And now my art had the power to ruin them. I felt both powerful and strangely sad. You did that to yourselves. I just painted what happened. The judges called everyone to attention for the awards. My heart hammered as they listed honorable mentions. 3rd place, 2nd. When they announced the grand prize winner, I heard my name. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. Then the applause crashed over me. I walked to the front, legs unsteady, accepted the certificate and the grant check. Flashbulbs popped. Someone asked me to say a few words. I stepped up to the mic, fingers gripping the edge. My parents stood at the back of the room, small and tense beneath their own cracked faces. This piece is about what happens when the people who are supposed to protect you become the ones who break you instead. Pause. When they care more about their image than your happiness. Sometimes the only way to survive is to tell the truth so loudly it drowns out their lies. A hush fell. To everyone who was told their dreams were a phase, or a disappointment, or a waste of potential, this is for you. The applause this time felt different, not just polite, thunderous, like something inside the room had shifted.
That day, a local news segment ran a story about the teenage artist whose parents tried to silence her truth. Clients quietly stopped calling my father. My mother withdrew at work. Their world began to crumble, bit by bit, under the weight of consequences they'd tried so hard to avoid. 11 years later, I was 27. My phone lit up on my studio table. 99 missed calls from the same number. The number I'd muted, then blocked, then unblocked, so I could see it and choose not to answer. My parents' house line. The words from that night when I was 16 echoed in my head. "You'll be back begging in a month." I glanced up at the wall, where a much newer painting hung, part of a series that had toured 3 countries, written about in magazines, studied in art classes. This one showed a phone exploding with light, 99 missed calls glowing across the screen. In the reflection on the glass surface, you could just make out a pair of older, desperate faces. Behind the phone, the silhouette of a woman stood at an open window, looking out at a city instead of back at the ringing device. That woman was me. My career had taken off after the competition. The grant paid for the rest of art school. Commissions followed. I taught workshops, sold prints, signed with a gallery. I wasn't just painting pretty pictures. I was painting survival. People who grew up like I did saw themselves in my work, wrote to me from all over the world. Meanwhile, my parents' life followed the path I'd imagined in that brutal portrait. The whispers became public. Clients abandoned my father's business after the article about the missing daughter went viral. A bad investment tipped them over the edge. The house I'd grown up in was sold to cover debts. They moved into a cramped apartment far from the manicured neighborhood they once bragged about. The first time my mother called, after years of silence, I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was smaller, frayed. "Sarah, we're not doing well. Your father's health, we could really use your help. Just call me back, please." I didn't. Not then. Instead, I went to my studio and painted. Now, on this ordinary Tuesday, the screen screamed 99 missed calls. My chest felt tight, not from fear, but from the weight of what picking up or not picking up would mean. I let it ring one more time. Then, finally, for the first time in years, I answered. Silence crackled for 2 seconds. Then my mother's voice came through, raw, hoarse. "Sarah." I could hear noise in the background, hospital monitors, distant announcements. "We've been trying to reach you." I noticed. "What do you want?" Pause. Then my father's voice, weaker than I'd ever heard it. "We need help. The medical bills, the debts, we're losing everything." A bitter laugh rose in my throat. I lost everything at 16. "We were wrong. About your art, about the way we treated you. I know it's too late to ask, but please, we're begging you." The word begging hung in the air, heavy with irony. They had once told me I'd come back begging. Now they were the ones on their knees. For a few seconds, I didn't speak. My mind replayed images. The door slamming, the police station, the shredded canvases, my mother's tears in the cafe, the way they'd tried to buy my silence. Then, other images. My first solo show. The message from a fan who said my work gave them courage to leave an abusive home. The kid who showed up at my signing with paint-stained hands and said, "My parents hate my art too, but I'm not quitting." I walked to the window, looking out over the city that had become my real home. Here's the thing. I built this life without you. Every canvas, every paycheck, every sleepless night. You weren't there. You were the reason I had to fight this hard in the first place. My mother's voice trembled. "We know, and we're sorry, truly. Can we at least see you? Talk? Try to fix things?" My eyes stung, but I refused to let the tears fall. "You want forgiveness now that you've lost everything. Would you have called if you were still in that big house with your perfect reputation?" Silence answered me louder than words. I already knew the truth. I could have hung up, let them drown in the consequences they'd poured on me first. Part of me wanted to. Another part, smaller but insistent, whispered that carrying this hatred forever would chain me to them just as tightly as obedience had. I took a deep breath.
I'm not your safety net. I won't be your bank. I won't erase what you did.
Their breath caught. I also won't be the person who watches you die on principle. I'll have my lawyer contact the hospital about a payment plan. It'll go through a foundation, not my name. Pause. You won't get my forgiveness just because you're scared. That has to be earned. Slowly, over time. And you may never fully get it. Pause. But you also won't be homeless because of me. My father started to speak. I cut him off. This is not a reconciliation. This is me choosing not to become as cruel as you were. That's it. There was a ragged sob on the other end. My mother, I think. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. I ended the call before they could say anything else. My hands shook as I set the phone down, but there was a strange lightness in my chest, like a window had been cracked open in a room that had been sealed for too long. I walked back to the painting of the glowing phone and the woman by the window, picked up a brush. In the reflection on the glass screen, I added one tiny new detail. The faint outline of a door in the distance, not fully open, not fully closed. A possibility, not a promise. Because this was the truth. I hadn't gone back begging in a month. Instead, 11 years later, they were begging me to pick up. And I did, but on my terms. Here's what this story taught me. Sometimes the people who throw you out expect you to fail. They need you to fail, because your success proves they were wrong about you. And being wrong about you means they have to face what they did. This story taught me that revenge doesn't always look like destruction. Sometimes it looks like survival.
Sometimes it's just living well when they said you'd crash and burn.
And here's the hardest truth. When the people who broke you finally admit they were wrong, it doesn't erase the years they made you suffer. An apology after you've already rebuilt your life isn't the same as support when you need it at most. The real lesson? You don't owe them forgiveness just because they finally ran out of options. You don't owe them anything. Not rescue, not comfort, not a second chance they never gave you. But you also get to choose whether their suffering becomes your burden to carry. So now I want to ask you, if the people who kicked you out at your lowest, who slammed the door in your face and said you'd come crawling back, showed up years later broke and desperate, what would you do? Would you hang up and let them face the consequences alone? Would you help them fully, pay their bills, forgive everything, try to rebuild the relationship? Or would you do what Sarah did, Help just enough to stay human, but not enough to let them back into your life. Maybe you'd handle it differently. Set strict conditions, require therapy first, make them prove they've actually changed before offering anything. I really want to know. Because here's the deeper question. When someone who destroyed your dreams finally admits you were right, does that validation heal anything? Or does it just highlight how much time you lost trying to prove yourself to people who should have believed in you from the start? And here's the hardest part. If you help them even after everything they did, are you being compassionate? Or are you just showing them that no matter how badly they treat you, you'll still be there to catch them when they fall? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Because this isn't just about art, or parents, or being kicked out. It's about knowing the difference between forgiveness and letting yourself be used again. Let's discuss.